Shalom, 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 yasha. This your boy, Brother Samuel Allah, back at you with another quick edifying video. Today's lesson is going to be called, You Can't Stop What's Coming. All right, you can't stop what's coming. All right, first and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory. I want to say, Call Halal Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Qadash. That's all praises to the Heavenly Father, whose name is Yahawah, and his only begotten Son's name, who you ignorantly call Jesus, whose name is Yahawashi. All right, and the Holy Spirit, which is the Rawchaa Qadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who have ruled well through the Spirit and have fed and edified the sheep in these last days, and has pushed this gospel and this truth to the four corners of the earth in these last days of mighty Shalom. All right, another mighty shalom to all you Akim out there laboring on the highways and on the hedges and on the unicorn, which is this internet, pushing this 100% doctrine, this 100% truth to the four corners of the earth in these last days. A mighty shalom to you all as well. All right, this comes from the LAD Bible, right? It's an article that says U.S. Army officially begins recruiting soldiers to fight in space. Okay. Like I said, today's lesson is going to be called You Can't Stop What's Coming. All right. So it says the U.S. Army is making its first move to add to its space wing. It says you may have heard of the country's Space Force before, which is one of the nation's 6 armed forces and one of the 8 uniformed services of the U.S., but they're not stopping there. It says, but 7 years on from Trump's launch of the service, the Army has stepped in and announced that it will introduce a new space-related military occupational specialty by October 2026. It says during a media briefing at the Pentagon on Friday, May 2nd, it says that the service's top service officer confirmed the decision as stated by the U.S. Department of Defense. Military officials believe that it will prepare the force for conflicts in the 21st century, which can happen across land, air, sea, cyber, or space. It says the move to have its first ever space career field for enlisted personnel will create a permanent career track for those looking to specialize in space operations. It says a statement from the commander of Army Space and Missile Defense Command, Army Lieutenant General Sean A. Gainey, detailed the Army's intentions. It read, these soldiers will become the experts we turn to during the next conflict. Our Army space professionals support unique assets to indirect or disrupt adversaries' use of space capabilities, ensuring Army forces maintain the initiative to fight from the positions of relative advantage in all dominions. He added that these specialists will become the expert we turn to during the next conflict. Right? What's that next conflict? Right? The third woe. It says the new military occupational specialty, or MOS, designed 40D for Space Operations Specialist, is set to become official in October 2026. In the past, Army officers were the only ones that could embark on a dedicated space operations career, while enlisted soldiers working in space-related soldiers were from other specialties such as engineering and air defense, only to return to their post when coming back to Earth, Space News reports. All right, it says, to date, the preponderance of expertise and experience in space operations resides in the officer corps instead of their non-commissioned officer corps, it says. Gainey said, adding that this new MOS will allow specialists to arrive at Army space formations with experience and expertise in space operations. Army space professionals will work on tactics to disrupt enemies' satellite networks, for example, among their other tasks. Officials claim that the initiative will be budget neutral, while personnel who are loaned to space units are expected to return to their original fields before being replaced to permanent roles in the new space operations specialty. It says Gainey said that the 40D mission would be different to Space Force, explaining, "We're focused on tactical maneuver fight with our forces on the ground, pushing that capability forward so our forces are able to leverage the effects of space-based system directly benefiting the operator on the ground." It says the good news is that there are more than enough work for all of us on the battlefield today. It says according to the Gainey, competition for these roles is looking to be tight. As he said, "I want to encourage everybody who's interested in the Space 4D MOS to compete for it, but it's going to be very competitive. These new soldiers will train at the Space and Air and Missile Defense System Center, Salakia, of Excellence at Peterson Space Force Base in Colorado Springs, Colorado." All right. So they're preparing, right, for what? It said, we go back, right? They're preparing for the next major conflict, right? That's what they said, right? And what's that next major conflict? Let's get it. Let's get it real quick. Salakia. Let's go to the book of Revelation, right? They know what's coming, but they can't stop it, right? They're not going to be able to stop it, all right? Revelation 11, and I believe it's 14, right? It says, "The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly." All right, this third woe, all right? And we see that this is the third woe is right at hand. All right, see the conflicts arising. All right, but ultimately, this is going to be the end of wars. All right, because who's coming? Right? Let's get it. Revelation chapter 1 verse 7. Why are they doing all this? These defense, this space tactics and all this stuff? Because they know who's coming. All right. It says, Revelation chapter 1 verse 7, it says, "Behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him, and they also which pierced him, and all the kindreds of the earth shall wail because of him. Even so, amen." All right. And he that cometh, that's talking about Yahawashi, right? And what is Yahawashi coming? He's coming in those clouds, which are chariots of Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi, right? Or what you would call, these UFOs or a spacecraft, right? He's coming from space, right? That's why they're getting all these, defense mechanisms, the Space Force, all this stuff was created, right? Because, the Lord is going to put the spirit upon them to come up against them, right? Let's get that real quick, right? Right? They know what's going on, right? This is 2nd Ezra chapter 13 and verse number 2, and it says, "Lo, there arose a wind from the sea, that it moved all the waves thereof. And behold, lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven." Okay, who is that? It's talking about Yahawashi and the angels, okay? With the thousands of heaven, right? The host of angels, they're coming, all right? And those chariots or those spaceships. It says, "And when he turned his countenance to look, all things trembled that were seen under him," right? It said when he returns, they shall wail because of him, right? It says, reading on verse 4, it says, "And whensoeuer the voice went out of his mouth, all they burnt that heard his voice, like as the earth faileth when it feeleth the fire." It says, "And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of the heaven to subdue the man that came out of the sea." All right, and that sea, talking about the space, right? When we talk about the waters, right, in Genesis, right, you have the the lower part of the sea, right, the water, the actual water. Then you have the sky, right, which is also made of elements of water too. All right, and Yahawashi is coming through the sky, okay, through that sea. It says, but behold, and lo, it says, but I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain and flew upon it. Okay, talking about Yahawashi. And that great mountain is talking about that chariot or that spacecraft, right? It's going to be so huge that it looks like a mountain, right? It says, and this is Esdras, it said, but I would have seen the region or place without the heel was graven, and I could not, right? Esdras couldn't even see where one part of it started and where the other part ended. Couldn't see. It was so huge, okay? And it says, and after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, yes, durst fight. Okay, just as in ancient Egypt, right? The Lord put it on the spirit of the Pharaoh to continue to come after the children of Israel, right? But the Lord is going to put the spirit upon, these nations to come up against Yahawashi and the angels, right? And the chariots, okay? And their weaponry, right? And they thinking they can go and have these space battles, right? It says, and lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand nor his sword. It says, nor held sword nor any instrument of war, but only I saw that he sent out of his mouth, as it were been a blast of fire, out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests, and they were all mixed together, the blast of fire and the flaming breath and the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude which was prepared to fight, and burned them up every one, so that upon of a sudden an innumerable multitude nothing was to be perceived but only dust and the smell of smoke. And when I saw this, I was afraid. All right, because Yahawashi, when he's coming, he's going to be using his weaponry along with the angels in their chariots, right? They're going to, they got laser beams, weapons that Esau can't even imagine. All right. And this weapon, right? This laser beam, zapped them to these folks to dust. All right. This is in the scriptures. Okay. This is in the scriptures. All right. When we go to, let's go to, right. But Esau is thinking he's going to come up against him. All right. Esau thinks he's going to come up against him. It's not going to happen. All right. Let's go to Isaiah, right? 47, right? Let's get that. Right? This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 47 and verse 1. It says, come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans. For thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. Take the millstone and grind meal. Uncover thy locks. Make bare the leg. Uncover the thigh. Pass over the rivers. It says, thy nakedness shall be uncovered. Yea, thy shame shall be seen. And I will take vengeance. I will not meet thee as a man. Because when Yahawashi returns, right, all that meekness is done. Right? He's coming with vengeance and fury, like the book of Isaiah 66 says. It says, as our Redeemer, Yahawah Bahasham of hosts is his name, the Holy One of Israel. Okay? Matter of fact, let's go to 66, right? Isaiah chapter 66 and verse 15, it says, for behold, Yahawah Bahasham will come with fire and with his chariots like a whirlwind to render his anger with fury and his rebuke with flames of fire. For by fire and by his sword will Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi plead with all flesh, and the slain of Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi shall be many. Right? When the Lord comes, he's coming for mass destruction. He's coming to take over and conquer everything. All right. And what did he say in Isaiah 47? He's not going to meet them as a man. All right. But they still have it in their, futile little human brains that they're going to, the Lord's put the spirit upon them that they're going to be able to fight against him. And they're not. Okay. They're not going to be able to fight against him. All right. It says, let's go to Isaiah 31, right? Isaiah 31 and verse 5, it says, as birds flying, so will Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi of hosts defend Jerusalem. Defending also, he will deliver it, and passing over, he will preserve it. Okay? So as birds flying, right? Because these spacecrafts, they're going to be doing all types of maneuvers that Esau's not going to be ready for. Their top military jets and this, that, and the other, not going to be capable. Okay? But see, Esau thinks that he's going to be able to come up against it, right? And remember, you had Reagan, talking about this, talking about the Star Wars program and different things, right? Because they know, where this threat is coming from. This threat is coming from above, right? And Yahawashi, all right? And he's coming, right? With all the host of angels, okay? What is that? Psalms, I believe it's 68, and verse 17. Call Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi, right? Psalms chapter 68, verse 17. It says, the chariots of Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi are 20,000, even thousands of angels. Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi is among them, as in Sinai in a holy place. All right, the Lord is coming with the host, right? With the angels, right? And they're coming deep. And they're coming over to take shit over, right? You can't stop this, all right? You're not going to be able to stop this. Your Air Force, your Space Force, whatever you want to call it, not going to stop this, okay? And they believe that they're going to be, capable, right? When you go to the book of Revelation, and it talks about, the war in heaven, right? This is Revelation chapter 12 and verse 7. It says, and there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragons, and the dragons fought and his angels. Okay, and that's not talking about some actual dragons, up in the spirit. No, this is right here on the heavens. Is talking about in the air. Okay, and so the angels, right? Yahawashi and the angels are going to be fighting against the dragon, right? Esau and his military, right? They're going to have their little F-13s, F-35, whatever they got out now, right? Thinking that they're going to be able to keep up with the chariots of Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi, all right? But you see what happens when Yahawashi comes, he's going to be zapping people to dust, okay? He's going to be zapping people to dust. They're not going to be able to withstand, all right? The Lord, this ain't going to be a fair fight, all right? But the Lord is going to put the spirit upon him to what? To want to try to fight, okay? And as he's doing that, right, he's going to be gathering the elect too, right? Be multitasking, right? He's going to be tearing stuff up. And let's get that. Matthew 24, right? Because he's coming to what? To rescue, deliver the captives. Okay. Let's see. This is Matthew chapter 24 and verse number 30. It says, and then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. And they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory, right? It's the same thing as Revelation, same thing as Isaiah 47, right? Um, it's all talking about, the coming of Yahawashi, right? And it says, and he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Okay, so the Lord is coming, right? When the third woe is happening, right before those ICBM missiles, touch down in Babylon. What Yahawashi and the angels are going to be returning. They're going to gather the elect. Okay, they're going to gather those, from the four corners. They're going to gather the elect out of Babylon, right? Who were predestined to be saved. Okay, and once they are secured, hey, this place here is gonna be utter ashes and desolate. Okay, that's why it talks about when he talks about the strangeness of of our salvation and the wisdom of Solomon, chapter 5 and verse number 1. It says, "Then shall the righteous man stand in great boldness before the face of such as have afflicted him and made no account of his labors." It says, "When they see it, they shall be troubled with terrible fear and shall be amazed at the strangeness of his salvation, so far beyond all that they have looked for." Okay? Because they're not looking to see, a huge spacecraft come and start beaming up so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, right? And those of the diaspora, right, who might look like these other nations, right, but their lineage goes back to Jacob, right, getting beamed right up. All right, people are going to be looking like, what is going on, right? It's going to be all hell breaking loose, right? You're going to be seeing that, and then you're going to be seeing these missiles coming down, right? It's going to be way, far beyond that anybody has ever thought of or imagined, right? And they're also, the angels and Yahawashi are going to be tearing stuff up. They're going to be fighting these Esau, right, in his little military and put their ass down. Okay, so your space force and all this stuff, hey, it's it's all for nothing, right? But it's all really part of prophecy, right? Go ahead and rev it up, right? Give it your best shot. All right, but the Lord is going to come and utterly destroy this place. Okay, utterly destroy this place. All right, so you can try and see how that works out for you, right? But we already know the end game, right? Because you can't stop what's coming, right? When Yahawashi comes, right? He said, I'm not going to meet you as a man, okay? And he's coming with his full power and glory and the whole host of heavens, all right? He's coming to tear some stuff up, all right? So this is why you have, Esau trying to do this space force, right? Because they know what's coming, but what they don't understand is they can't stop it, right? They can't stop it. All right. So I just want to do this quick lesson, right? Lord's will. This was edifying, right? Man, Lord's will. We're part of that number who can see, who's going to be able to witness all this happening and see it, man. Right? The scriptures tell you, watch and pray that you may be accounted worthy to escape all these things and to stand before the Son of Man, right? To be in that chariot, man, to be looking down and seeing the destruction of Babylon, right? To see your enemies getting utterly destroyed before you. Oh, man. In the chariots, right? That's tearing stuff up. Call Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi, man. That's what we're looking for, man. Right? Yahawashi, he saves, he delivers. All right? And he's coming, right? Man, call Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi. All right, so with that, I'll give all praises, honor, and glory. I say, call Halal Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Qadash, peace and blessings to the elect of the 12 tribes scattered abroad. A mighty shalom to the 144,000 men. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone, who have ruled well to the spirit and have fed and edified the sheep in these last days. Right, another mighty shalom to the rest of the elect, right? Men, women, and children. All right, stay focused. Right? Keep your Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi, right there. Call on the name of Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi. continue to endure, all right, until the end, right? And continue to pray and pray for each other in these last days, that we may be accounted worthy, right? That we may stand on the sea of glass and watch the destruction take place, all right? Call Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi, all right? And with that, a ball, shalom.